Hi everyone and welcome to my Progress 2 presentation of my final year project. My project title is Behavior Escalation Focused Offensive Security Training Platform, and in this presentation I'm going to present about what I have developed or what I have reached so far in the development of my project. So I will quickly go to the outline and just quickly go through the whole idea of the project again, just to for completeness of the video. There will be a project description, recap, just recap of everything in the project, and then will be the second increment scope as well. Then at the end, I will be demoing or demonstrating the progress that I've done so far. So yeah, the project aims to building a privilege escalation platform or training platform that trains any user can use to train for privilege escalation scenarios and so on. It has some aims that are different from the regular platform, which is skipping the initial access part, having simulated environment, real life scenarios, and so on. And it's also will be packaged and portable and also extendable. Uh, so for the development methodology, I'm using the iterative and incremental development, and this is basically it is done by building or developing different parts of the system and then integrating them together, increment after another. So in this case, or in this progress, I've done with increment 2, which is yeah, which is now integrated with increment with the previous increment as shown here. So this increment basically focuses on this part of the system architecture, the highlighted part here, which is building the web application using the Django, um, which is a Python framework for developing web applications. This is basically the user interface that users will interact with. So in here is just the overall technologies that is going to be used um, in this project. But if I go to the slides, yeah. So this is actually the actual scope of this increment only, which is building the web application, which configuring and building this web interface that the user will interact with. And the aim is to have a single page web application from which the user can view the change details, that start change instance, stop change instance, and validate the change solution by submitting the flags. So this was the mockup. Uh, the result of Rigorous 2 is something that is quite close to this mockup, which we're going to see later in the demo. Okay, so now it's time for the demo. I will switch to my IDE and show you guys code. Okay, here we go. We have now the IDE. I have the IDE open that I used to develop the web application. So the web application, as I mentioned, is a uh, Django web application that is built with Python. Uh, so yeah, this is here the folder where I have my web application. It's called prevesc pg or for playground, and here are the different folders that this web application is going to be using. So the main folders here are basically the config, where all the settings and configurations are stored, um, and for example for the database and so on. And second folder that is important here is this prevesc.png, because it contains all the static files and templates, the database file, and so on. And then there is the core, or the core of this application, or the core module is basically the folder that holds the actual application logic and so on. So yeah, in this one there's basically, since it is a single page web application, then the URL paths are actually just four URL paths. The first one that have nothing, so it goes to index. The one that has submit flag goes to submit flag, and one for start and stop in instances. The views of those function or of those URLs are stored here in views.py that have one for index, one for submit flag. This is basically the logic of the submit flag. This is this is where it happens. The interaction with the database happen, and here where the instance start and the instance stop, and the instance start and stop through the Docker API. So this web application interact with the Docker API, because as we mentioned in the previous progress, that the Docker that the scenarios, the training scenarios are built using Docker. So they will be on the host. That those Docker images are on the host, and by connecting to the Docker API and basically starting the Docker containers, this is basically effectively starting the instance. And the same thing for stopping the instance, also checking if this instance is running, and then if it's running, stopping it, and so on. Here is like some error handling messages that to have to just account for every case that might have an error, and provide a different response for it, and so on. So yeah, so the idea here is the good thing about Django is it actually interacts with the database through the code, through an API, not through writing SQL queries or SQL queries, because it's a modern framework, so it does the SQL queries in the background, so the developer doesn't have to write it. So for example, if I want to get, for example, the challenge, so the challenge is just a table in the database. If I can get all the objects in the challenge that meets this criteria here, which is unique ID is same as the one submitted from the user. So yeah, this is just an overview of the code. Obviously, it is more complicated than this, but just for time's sake, I will move to actually showing the web application itself. So if I want to show this web application now, I can just use Django itself to run a web server for me. This is obviously is not how it's going to be done in production when it is packaged inside a VM. But for demo sake, I will just run Python manage run server, and this uh, will have so there is an environment variable that I need to set. Okay, let me fix this while. Okay, so just by adding this environment variable, because obviously since this is a testing environment, it's not a production environment, so this environment variable happened to be not set by me before. So exporting this environment variable should be able to run the server now. Yes, so going to this, let me open here, just open a new one. Yes, opening this will open the web application for me. So this is the index page of the web application, and since it is a single page web application, so that's all that I have for now. That's all that the application will have for now. I'm planning to add an about page, but it still haven't been added. But it just will be like just gives the user an idea about what this web application is about. But basically, those are the changes. So depending on how many changes are in the database, there will they will all be displayed here dynamically. I don't have to change anything. I can just add more challenges. It will be added here automatically. And yes, so here is a description. Just gives like a scenario that um, might be interesting for the user to make it like a bit of gamification for the user. And basically here I can start and stop the instance. So I give every instance some name that doesn't spoil the challenge, like that doesn't uh, tell the user the answer for the challenge, but at the same thing it gives a hint. So the rogue permission, it gives the user a hint that the challenge solution might be related to permissions or file permissions. So let's try, for example, with rogue permission 2, let's try to start the instance. You see, I get an error here, and this is a good opportunity to show the error handling, or yeah, the error messages and so on. So the idea here is I didn't actually run the Docker API. So now it's trying to contact the Docker API and run this instance for me, but I didn't open the Docker desktop application. So let me open that. Yes. So opening that will basically, as you can hear, you see here, Docker is starting, and after this is open, yeah, so I don't need that now. So once it shows that it has been started, I can go back to this and basically start the instance. Instance started successfully. If I go to my Docker desktop here just to confirm that it works, so instance started successfully, and there is a Docker running here, a Docker container running here. So now it tells me that I connect to, oh, yeah, I need to connect to this IP address with this port. So let me try to connect. So the connection is basically, as we mentioned before, that it is with SSH. So let me just make it here, SSH uh, child2. So child2 is a username. So this is a credential child2, and password is changed to exclamation mark. So this will be at 192.168.199. So now I'm doing this as a regular user. I'm demoing it as a regular user. That's the user what they will do once they started the instance. Uh, they will just connect to it. Okay, so now I didn't specify the port. As you see, the port here is 52s. So P222. Yes. Enter the password. Okay, so I am inside this challenge right now. I can go ahead and solve the challenge, and once I solve the challenge, so the challenge is related to HC password have right permissions, like here. But for time's sake, I'm not going to solve the challenge because that has been done for the in the previous section, in the previous progress. So I'm going to just connect as root directly, and uh, go to, and once the user solves the challenge, that on this instance it will be prompted by a root prompt here, and the user can go ahead and to the root directly, to the root directory, cd root, and can read the flag.txt. So cat flag.txt, and this is the flag. So this is just a string, a unique string that the user need to validate this challenge. So if I enter anything that is random here, it will tell me that this is a wrong flag. I can, if I enter the correct flag, it will tell me that the flag is correct. And that's how the user is going to train for. So the user job is, or the how the user trains is by running the instance, connecting to it using the providing details here, and solving the instance. And once they become, now the user is challenge 2, but once they become root, they can read the flag. If I try to cat root, sorry, get root flag.txt. If I try to cat that while I am challenge 2 user, it will not it will not I cannot read it because permission is denied. But once I am root, I can read the flag. So that's the point of that this whole training platform, that now I can read this flag. So yeah, that's it for actually running the instance and connecting to it, solving the challenge, and validating the solution. Stopping the instance is just as easy as stop instance. It will contact the Docker API and eventually stop the instance. Yeah, so instance stops successfully. If I go here, there is no running instance. Okay, so yeah, so that's it for about the web application, and that what was done. Maybe I can show the database quickly. So the database is basically, so yes, I opened the database file. So in the database, since I forgot to mention it, the previous decision was actually to not use a database, since it is going to be a small set of data that can just be stored in a file or a JSON file. But I figured that I can still actually use the capabilities of database uh, while still using just a file using SQLite. So SQLite database is just a file on the disk, as you can see here. It's just db.sqlite3, and it contains the database in a the tables in a relational manner. And for this specific web application, there is only one table that is needed actually, which is the challenge table. So it's core challenge here. So this is just like the description, the thing that we have seen in the UI. It's all here. Even the flag is stored here. It's stored in base64, but it doesn't really matter. I just thought I would store it in base64. Yeah, so that's yeah, and that's the Docker name is actually the Docker container name. Just doesn't get displayed to the user because it would spoil the idea behind the challenge, but it is used to run the actual Docker container. We can also take a quick look on the actual index.html page, which contain all the messages that or all the logic that displays the challenges and so on. So it's using the Jinja uh, template. So this is obviously it's not HTML, it's a Jinja templating, so to access things from the Django application itself using Python. Yeah, and here is also it's using Ajax and jQuery to make requests to, for example, here it make request to submit flag. For example, here it make request to start instance, and so on and so forth. All of this is actually just the messages, the error messages or the success messages that is being injected into the HTML when an event happen. So yeah, that was all regarding the web application that I am building, and uh, and it is done now. Now it's the time. The next step would be to package both the web application and the Docker containers inside a VM virtual machine, and but once this is packaged, it can be distributed and downloaded by users who want to train their previous escalation skills. I hope this was informative and complete. and I would be happy to receive any questions regarding it. Thank you for watching.